Hey guys, Harsh here and welcome back to Technolobe. So as you all know, budget smartphones are getting better and better day by day. The prime examples of this are the two new phones, Moto G5s Plus and the Xiaomi Mi A1. I have already done a review of the Mi A1 and if you haven't watched that video yet, then I highly recommend you to go ahead and watch that video because Mi A1 is a very good phone. I'll leave a card right over here and also a link in the description box below. You can go ahead and check that video out. Now today in this video, let's have a detailed look at the other phone, that is the Moto G5s Plus. Without wasting any more time, let's get started. Okay, so first of all, right off the bat, let's go ahead and talk about the performance. So the Moto G5s Plus comes with a Snapdragon 625 processor. We've seen this processor with almost all the budget phones this year and it performs exceptionally well. Now one more reason why the performance on the Moto G5s Plus is good is because of the stock Android experience. So Moto does not like to add any bloatware, which is a big thumbs up from my side. They do add some features, but they are useful more often than not. So like the gestures and everything are really useful and Moto does not like to add features which you won't use. So the features are useful and the experience is very near to stock Android. So you will get great performance out of this phone because of Snapdragon 625 coupled with stock Android. Now moving on, let's talk about the design and the build quality. So just like the Moto G5 Plus, the design language has been carried over to the Moto G5s Plus. And I really like this design because Moto is doing something different. Like the Mi A1 has a design which is very similar to that of the OnePlus 5 and also the iPhone 7 Plus. But Moto G5s Plus has a completely new design, especially that camera module is really good. I really like the placement of the camera module on the back and the overall feel in hand of the device is also very good. As far as the build quality goes, it is made out of metal, which is a very premium material, and as I mentioned before, the feel in hand is very good. Also, it has a 2.5D glass at the front, which is Corning Gorilla Glass 3. That means it will give you some sort of protection to scratches. So overall, the design and build quality are really good, and I have no complaints in that department. Now moving on, let's talk about the main feature with this phone, that is those cameras. So it has not only one but two cameras at the back, so it is a dual camera setup, but the implementation is different than the Mi A1. So this one has one colored sensor that is RGB and the second sensor is monochrome. So the monochrome sensor will give better detail and also depth information. Both the cameras are 30 megapixels and the aperture is f2.0. Now as you can see with these sample images, the images that are shot under bright daylight conditions turn out to be really good. The dynamic range is also good and the overall detail in the photos is also excellent. So if you capture images in bright daylight conditions, the result is very good. Now this phone also has the portrait mode, but the portrait mode seems to be software and not hardware. That means the software part in the portrait mode has a bigger role than the hardware part. Like the monochrome sensor will provide depth information, but it seems to be tuned by software. So it is not perfect, it is a hit or miss. But I hope that with future software updates, the portrait mode will get better. Well, it is not exactly called the portrait mode, it is called the depth mode. So the depth mode, I just hope that it will get better with software updates. As far as the performance in low light goes, this phone does not perform as good as the Moto G5 Plus. The Moto G5 Plus has a 12 megapixel sensor with a wider f1.7 aperture. Now that is one of the main reasons why Moto G5 Plus is better in terms of low light because of the bigger aperture. But the Moto G5s Plus has a smaller aperture and that's why the performance in low light is not that good. So that is kind of a letdown for me because I was expecting a better camera in the G5s Plus in terms of low light, but that is not the case. Obviously you get some new features with the dual camera, like you can shoot monochrome pictures which look really good and also you get that depth mode, but the performance in low light is slightly lower than the Moto G5 Plus. As far as the video goes, this phone can shoot up to 4K 30 FPS, which is again a big thumbs up from my side. And one good thing about this phone is that it has electronic image stabilization. Now I know that it is not optical image stabilization, but it is good to have some sort of stabilization at this price point. As far as the front camera goes, it is an 8 megapixel sensor with an f-stop of f2.0. The front camera is also wide angle, that means all your friends can fit in that selfie. The front camera is really good on this phone and I like that. So in terms of the front camera, I have no complaints whatsoever and it performs very good. Now moving on, let's talk about that display. So the Moto G5s Plus comes with a 5.5-inch display with a resolution of 1920 by 1080. So it is still that 16:9 display, but I'm not complaining because at this price point, I do not expect the futuristic infinity display like we've seen with almost all the flagships this year. Maybe next year we'll get the infinity display on budget smartphones, but this is not the year for that. So overall at this price point, the display is very good, the viewing angles are good, the colors are good, and I have no complaints whatsoever. Now moving on, let's talk about the battery life. So the Moto G5s Plus comes with a 3000 mAh battery which will last you for a day, not more than a day. So the battery life is 1 day and you can stretch it more than a day, but for a normal use. But for a heavy use, it will last you only for a day, which is good enough considering the price point. But if you want something which will give you excellent battery performance, then Redmi Note 4 has no comparison. The battery performance on Redmi Note 4 is just outstanding. But I'm not complaining with this phone. I like the battery of this phone and I have no complaints with the battery of this phone as well. As far as the speaker on this phone goes, it is a single downward firing speaker. It is not the loudest on the market, but yeah, at this price point, I can deal with the speaker. The speaker on the Mi A1 is a tad bit better, but I'm not comparing them right now because that will be a video for another day. The output from the headphone jack is also very good if you're wondering about that. So to sum it all up, the Moto G5s Plus is a really good package for the price. So it comes in for a price of Rs 16,000 for the 4GB and 64GB variant. It also has one more variant with 3 and 32, but I would not recommend you to go ahead and buy that. If you want to buy this phone, go for the 464, go all in so that you get the full experience. If you want to buy the Moto G5s Plus, I'll drop a link in the description box below. You can go ahead and check that out. And yes, I do recommend you to buy this phone. There are some issues, it is not the perfect phone, but come on, which phone is? Like, there is no perfect smartphone yet. So you are going to have some pros and cons with each phone. Now you have to decide which phone suits you best. If you want me to do a comparison between the Mi A1 and the Moto G5s Plus, then let me know in the comment section down below. I'll make that video happen. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comment section down below, or you can follow me on my social profiles so that you can ask your questions over there. If you like this video, show some love by hitting that like button and also hit the subscribe button down there. My name is Harsh Punjabi and I'll see you guys in the next one. Let's go.